everybody. It's Connie Stewart with SimplySimpleStamping.com. I'm so glad you guys could join me for today's Tuesday tip video because this is a wow. This is the card that's going to blow their minds. Trust me. We're going to be creating a never-ending card today. Now, I've seen these cards over the years, but today I've learned a few steps that we're going to simplify the process. We're going to make creating these cards easy, much quicker as well. So are you ready for some tips on how to create the perfect never-ending card? All right, let's go get started. Let me share with you how the never-ending card works. You can see you just kind of keep opening and flipping. And when I say never-ending, guess what? There we are right back at the beginning. And it just keeps going. In fact, I showed this card to my husband and he said, I could play with this all day. And I said, I know, right? Well, guess what, friends? I'm going to teach you a very simple way to create this card. I think you're going to enjoy it. Let's get started with our supplies we need. I have 2 pieces of cardstock. These are 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so a quarter of a sheet, Coastal Cabana and Bermuda Bay. I've got 4 pieces each in Bermuda Bay and Coastal Cabana. These are all the same size, 1 7/8 by 2 1/2. The last thing we need are some basic white pieces. My friends, I have 6 of those that are 1 3/4 by 2 3/8, and then 2 that are 7/8 by 2 3/8. Lots of 3/8, lots of 1/8. Oh, we've got lots of 8s going on. So if you need a refresher on how to read a ruler, I'm going to put the link for that right up there in the corner. So you can always go back and check that out if you just need to remember where those 8s are. So for my never-ending card, you're going to want to choose a stamp set that is fairly small. We don't want anything too big because when we go to stamp on this, I don't want this to be some giant flower that you can't tell what it is because you can see we're only seeing little bits of it. So make sure you're focusing on a stamp set that is fairly small. I thought the Lovely You was great. Of course, I had some great sentiments to go inside my card as well. So I'm going to start here with the Bermuda Bay, along with a Bermuda Bay ink pad. Now, guys, I want to stamp these very close to each other. We want to really fill up this piece of cardstock. You see, I'm just kind of rotating it around so I can do this very quickly. It's not going to take long at all. We are going to repeat this all over this piece and all over the other side. So make sure you get everything all stamped, and then we're going to move on to the Coastal Cabana pad, and we're going to take another little image here from Lovely You, and just like I did before, I am just going to stamp. I just found it really easy to rotate my cardstock. That really allowed me to have a nice random look to these flowers. Remember what I said? Only little bits are going to be showing at a time, but we're just going to keep up with this random pattern. You can see I finished this side already for you. All right, cardstock stamped. We are now ready to work with these to create the never-ending card. Let's bring in our paper trimmer with our scoring blade. All right, first things first, let's get that cutting blade out of the way. Goodness me, we do not want to cut, we want to score. I'm going to start with the Coastal Cabana, and we're going to start with the 4 1/4 inches up here at the top. And here we go. We are going to score at 1 1/16. Guys, that is going to be the 1 inch in that very first notch. The very first little line right next to it is going to be 1/16, and I'm going to give that a score. I'm going to rotate this all the way around, and I'm going to do that here on the other side, 1 inch and 1/16. There we go. I'm now going to put the 5 1/2 inches at the top, and let's cut this in half at 2 3/4. I have 2 equal pieces. Now we're going to come in and work with the Bermuda Bay. Again, cutting blade out of the way. And with this one, you're going to score at 1 3/8, and that is in between 1 1/4 and 1 1/2. That is where your 1 3/8 is. And let's score this on one side, rotate it around. We'll do it again here on the other side, in between 1 1/2 and 1 1/4. There we go. I'm going to turn this one around, and I've got the 4 1/4 at the top. You're going to cut it in half at 2 1/8. That would be in between 2 and 2 1/4. All right, those pieces are done. I can put my cutting and my paper cutting, my scoring, we're done there. At this point, we want to go ahead and give all of these score lines a nice crease with the bone folder. And I'm going to have you do it on both sides. We really want this cardstock to be nice and flexible. And if you're wondering when I said this card was simplified, I've created this card in the past, and it was done with layers, and oh my goodness, we had so many little pieces. This version is so much easier because I'm going to let this stamped cardstock be the star. I'm not going to add those layers. I'm going to be using some other places on the card, but it's very, very simple. All right, let me get this last piece scored, and then we're going to put our never-ending card together. Lots of crazy measurements to that card, I know. But good news, I've got a free download with all the measurements waiting for you. And you can find that at simplysimplestamping.com, or you can just look down in the YouTube description. I've got a direct link to my post for today's card. Guys, everything that you need is going to be right there. There's even a link back to this video, because you may need to come back to learn how to put all those pieces back together. And I've got that there for you in that download, along with a place to order any of the supplies. So if you saw some things there that you'd like to order, I'd love to be your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and you can order right there. All right, with all that, are you ready to take all those pieces and put the never-ending card together? I'm sure you are. Let me show you how. All right, let's take our pieces of cardstock, and I want you to line them up where they are stamped. Everything is set just right. I hope that makes sense. We're going to line all that up. This would be incorrect. You notice my pattern's not the same. Let's make sure those patterns are going just the right way. We're going to start with the top of the Coastal Cabana and the first one here in the Bermuda Bay. I'm going to set these two off to the side, and I'm going to bring in multi-purpose glue for this one. Guys, I think this is really key with this. I tried to do it with my Stampin' Seal, and it just was not quite strong enough. So I want you to see, I'm kind of creating just a little square of some glue right here in the corner. All right, not too much. We want to keep that in about a little 1-inch square area. The reason I like to use the multi-purpose glue is, do you see how it just kind of slides around? I actually want it to slide around. I want to get this side and this side lined up perfectly. So the multi-purpose glue gives me the ability to kind of wiggle that around. Guys, this is the one part of the project. Take your time and make sure you're getting that set just right. I'm now going to come in with my other Bermuda Bay, lining it up because I want to make sure I'm putting it on correctly. And over here in this area, just a little square of glue. I'm going to line those up. We want all that to line up just right. I'm going to give that a press. Let me see how I'm looking here on the other side. Let's flip this over. And again, I can line up. Yep, I'm good there. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put glue here and here. And then we will be able to have our never-ending card, the hardest part. And it wasn't that hard, was it? We're going to line these up, lining up my images, and I don't want anything to overlap, all right? I don't want any of my cardstock pieces to overlap. All right, I'm going to give each of those 4 corners just a really good press, make sure everything's good. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold back my card, give this another good crease. We'll fold again. And there's no right or wrong to where you started this. And on this one here, if you find that it's fighting you, just kind of bone fold that into place. You'll know what I mean when you go to do it. Let's see, we did this one, we did this one, we did this one. Yep, everything's moving pretty good. Now, right here, if you have a certain spot, can you see how it's just wanting to catch just a little bit? This can happen, but I'm going to give you a tip if that does. So I can see this is the area that's wanting to catch just a little bit. I've got a nail file, and I'm just going to gently, nothing crazy. We're going to get our nail file on each of those ends just to kind of take a little bit off because it's not much. Yep, that did it. So A nail file can be a little lifesaver. Now that our never-ending card base is done, see, that wasn't hard, was it? All right, now we're ready to decorate. And guys, this is actually very simple to do. I'm going to put Bermuda Bay pieces on the Coastal Cabana, and they're just going to adhere right in there. You could use your Stampin' Seal on this. It was just the putting together of the card that I really recommend you use the multi-purpose glue, but you know what? We've got it out. Let's go for it. We're going to put those right here on, so Bermuda Bay going on Coastal Cabana. Now we'll flip our card open, and we're going to take 2 Coastal Cabanas to go on top of our Bermuda Bay. We've got those set. We're going to flip again, and oh, look at that. Now we've got Bermuda Bay over our Coastal Cabana. All right, and our last 2 pieces right there. Guys, here's what's crazy. Do you know that we created this entire card so far using half a sheet of Coastal Cabana and half a sheet of Bermuda Bay? Yeah, so 1 sheet of cardstock and we were able to create that. We are doing great. All right, now that we have all those pieces glued down, it's time to do our stamping and to make the inside of our card look pretty. So that's what we're going to do with our 6 pieces of basic white and those other 2 little strips. This is going to be for all our sentiments and pretties. Now, I do want to give you a tip. My particular card is going to go landscape. Stick around to the end of the video. I have a portrait version, but I did want to show you where I felt was the best direction for your card to start, and that is this layout. So you can see I kind of have these light pieces here. The card is flat. If this also helps you, that this is going to be your first open, that is what worked well for me. All right, so we're going to start with this as our front, and let me show you, this is what we're going to create. So I'm going to do a little stamping here and on these 2 flaps, and I'm going to start with Coastal Cabana. We'll stamp 1 here and another one right here. Again, just to kind of add a little something to those panels. I want to bring in some grid paper, and the first sentiment I'm going to stamp is Cherished Friend. And we're going to do that in our Memento Black. So you're going to go right there in the middle. Now with the So Saffron, let's come in. We're going to add a little bit to that. Let's take this pretty little flower. Let me show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to stamp a flower going that direction. I'll stamp another one going this direction. That looks nice. I'm going to bring in another one, and let's stamp 1 that way. I'm going to rotate this around, and we're going to stamp a couple more on either side. Now, because of the detail of this card and all those different panels, I really am going to recommend that you build and stamp as you go, rather than try to stamp everything and try to put it all together. I just found it to be a little bit easier to stamp and adhere and then move on to my next set of panels. So we're going to call this panel number 1. Now, of course, we're going to open our card. Back in with the Memento Black, I'm going to say Heartfelt, and then we'll add a couple little stamps here. And you know, I thought since I have that one out, I think I will randomly stamp this one all over this other little narrow piece. This would be the 7/8 of an inch. And the reason for these being narrow is because I don't want them to peek out. Remember, this is what you saw on the front. So I want to keep that down here. Now you can also see why I preferred to do that little bit of stamping at the beginning, because that helped me, kind of gave me a good visual on where these pieces are going to go. And we'll add our Heartfelt right here. And let me show you. Do you see? It's totally hidden. Yeah. Now, when you adhere that, you want to make sure you haven't flipped your card around. So I do always like to take a quick look as I'm doing things that I'm holding my card in the right way. Let's go to panel number 3. So we'll open it this way. And 2 more of our white pieces. And I'm going to stamp Love is What Makes Us Family. And we're going to do that in the black. But look, it's too long. My stamp is too long for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp it at an angle, And now in the So Saffron, we can add a couple leaves to that. And let's go ahead and just do some random leaf stamping here. Quickly, I want to make sure I have my card going the right way. I do. Let's add our sentiment to the left side. Of course, you could make it go to the other side. There's no right or wrong here. Now we can add that last set of leaves, and guys, it's time for our last panel, and that's this one here. Now, the reason I wanted this one at the end is I didn't want any of this to show. This is where I'm going to write my message. So I wanted this to be what I'm going to call a blank panel. Once you have a card made, that is going to make so much sense to you. But we're going to bring in our final two pieces of basic white. Now this is the leafy image we used here. So I'm just going to clean that so that I can stamp in my So Saffron. And I'm just going to get just a little bit here at the top. And then on this long side, again, I want to add just a little bit. Remember, we're writing our message here, and our message is going to have to be short and sweet. That's my kind of card. And we can add those right there. And look at that. We're back to the front of our card again. So you can see by taking it nice and slow and making sure all of my sentiments are going on the right way, leaving myself a nice blank area. You notice this didn't show up any other time on my card. So that's why I wanted you to start with the panel that had, and let me get back to it, this one here. All right, so this card, I did something a little bit different. So here on this one, remember we stamped on both sides of the cardstock. There was all that stamping to do. Well, this one, I decided to use designer series paper as my card base. So I had two pieces of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 designer series paper, did my scoring the same way I did here. And you can see this card is going portrait. So remember here, we had these two little strips, and that's how we knew where we were starting at. This one, it's going to be a little bit different, but we've got our two spots here. That's where we want to start our card. So whenever you see those two little panels, that's where you know that's where you're going to start. So let's look at this card, done with the Nothing's Better Than stamp set. And that stamp set was perfect for this card because I had so many different sentiments that went perfectly in these spaces. So today's plan: consume coffee. A day without coffee is like, just kidding, I have no idea. You're just like coffee. You make everything better. Coffee, because adulting is hard. And then a place to write my message. One last thing I want to share with you about today's card. Guess what? This can easily be mailed. It's going to fit into a medium or an A2 sized envelope. Lays pretty flat. And so this is a card that's easily going to be able to be mailed. And trust me when I say when the recipient gets it, they kind of automatically know what to do and just go and start flipping that card. You guys, you're going to amaze your friends with this card. I can promise you. So get yourself some cardstock, go start having some fun, create these fabulous never-ending cards for some never-ending fun. Thank you so much for stopping by for today's Tuesday tip. Hey, if you like the video and you like the card, would you give me a thumbs up on YouTube? I always appreciate that. And if you haven't subscribed, why not subscribe to my channel? I share twice a week here with you, and I'd love to have you be a part of that. Just click the subscribe button and YouTube can let you know whenever I'm back with a new video. Thank you again for being here, everybody. I hope that today's card inspired you. Make it, send it to a friend. That's all for me, everybody. See you next time. Bye-bye.